Well, hello, 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 hello. Good afternoon to you. Good morning. If that's where this is going to find you, welcome to Tottenham Hotspur, USA. I'm DJ Paul, and I'm going to take a quick look. Let me just go through my little cadence before once again welcome to Tottenham Hotspur, USA, and I'm DJ Paul. Well, let me get my thingy right before I jump into this whole discussion as the yes indeed welcome to Tottenham Hotspur USA. Thank you so much for dropping by. Thank you for engaging. Thank you for indulging. And the question of the day, you can see it below me here, is whether or not we are in turmoil or it is the effects of changes. Some in case where it was protested, there has been marches, there has been call around the social media more than anything else. There's another one coming up, I think, in on Saturday before the game, and I feel indifferent to these protests. There's nothing wrong with wanting your club to be better, want them to have changes, want them to progress, want them to give us something in return for our loyalty. And in some cases, we feel like that is not happening. We can all agree that, with Ange coming in and, breaking that duck after a combination of 42 years, 41 years, and 17 years before winning any form of major trophies. They're, for the magnitude and the size of this club, we expect better. And so if you're disgruntled about that, then we have a right to protest that. We have a right to demand more. We have a right to look at it and say, where is the problem? Is the problem that we are experiencing on the pitch? Where is the origination of that? I think over time we got sentimental in our thinking. We want to harken back to what we think or what we know. And I spoke about this, that we sometimes get a bit sentimental in looking for the solution. There was one instance that someone said, and they were adamant about this, that forget about everything that's going on. Just for the sake of feel good, let's bring back Pochettino. Because what Pochettino will do, he will galvanize the base. And I'm like, okay, so if you think that way, then you're not counting me as part of the disgruntled base, because even though I'm disgruntled about what's happening on the football pitch, I don't want to see Pochettino anywhere close to Tottenham. So to say that, let's have a feel good moment and bring Pochettino back will satisfy our lust, our crave for improvement. Now, coincidentally, I think that it is the recruitment, it is the product, and the absence of someone that understands football is what is missing. Not Pochettino, not trying to relive the Pochettino days. I don't think there's any pixie dust there from Pochettino that can satisfy the fan base. It's all about winning, and you cannot win without a good product. I will say this, that in spite of what we have, I know people are going to say, well, the competition and all this and all that when it comes to Ange Postecoglou and us winning the Europa, we did what we had to do. I can understand that in some instances, the expansion and the experience led to that. But when you look at it, if you're looking at it from a Spurs standpoint, you said that's an opportunity that was there. I don't care if it was watered down. I don't care if it was the worst United team. The problem with that, right, is that when you look at it that way, that we beat a poor United team, is that the worst that could have happened is that we lost to a poor United team. What would have also happened is that the stigma would have been still there, that Spurs will always be Spursy, and we can never, even in a weak year, that we don't have the biggest competition. First and foremost, I think that it was the right thing to do in making the Europa competitive amongst the teams that qualify to play in that competition. If you're qualified to play in the Champions League and you lose, you did not make it into the round of 16, you go home. You should never be given an opportunity to win a trophy that you were never qualified for, or you have a double qualification coming from the Champions League. No, if you're not good enough to make it in the round of 16, you go home. You don't see the same thing trickling down to the Conference League. Why should that be applicable to the Europa League? You should be one and done if you cannot sustain being in the Champions League. That's my opinion, and I will continue to hold on to it. So we won, right, in spite of, some of the things that we were expected to go, against us with the enormity and the pressure of a United, bad as they are or they were, we were still expected to lose, and we overcame that. Now we can push that to the side. One of the other elements of 25 years of Daniel Levy, and I'm going to get to the point of why are we in turmoil, and that this doesn't just started yesterday. If we want to look at where we are after 25, 24 years worth of same person in charge, the back room. Let's just understand where Daniel Levy role was. He was the executive chairman of the football club. He was also the managing director of the board at ENIC. That's another hat that he's wearing. He was also, or is also, a part-time owner of the club, minority owner, at be 29%. So Daniel Levy's reach was enormous in terms of where his hands were in everything that was happening at the club. Again, every person, I think, from the executive on through until he was let go, even in the summer, last summer, he hired all these people. He was behind them. I can understand, the board, but one of the things that I keep writing about, I never really put this on record, is that the board was satisfied with the development of the infrastructure, the dream that was sold, right, while the football was ignored, was profitable to the board, and everyone was collecting their dividend. Levy was being paid handsomely at about $3 million per year. So everybody had their hands in there and were at fault. Now, what is being revealed, especially in this window, right, is that it wasn't all on Daniel Levy. And so Daniel Levy being the front man, Daniel Levy being the bean counter as he was, and also an eye for the infrastructure, see this club as the aesthetic part, the building, the infrastructure in bringing the club to a point where the club could become sustainable, and therefore there was no need to bring outside investment. We see how difficult it was to get outside investment for the other things that were happening, because everyone wants a piece of the football. And the minute that was not happening, all the investors run away, because what they want is the most cherished piece of the football the club. The go-kart and the boxing and the concert can go away tomorrow, right? The hotel will do whatever it has to do. It's accommodation. But when it comes to the belly of the club, the heart of the club, the mainstay of the club is the football. And therefore, for those investors who want to come in, they don't want to come and invest in the concert portion, all the other auxiliary stuff. They want to invest in the football, because the club, first and foremost, it should be about football. And so when you look at it, not defending Daniel Levy, it's that we think we were turning a corner. And you can hear it in his public statement. Do we believe that because he had made promises before, and we ended up wherein we have inferior teams? I can say yes, we did. But this time, the foretelling was in the interview where he said that I think he felt like the writing was on the wall, where he said that they're going to appreciate me when I'm gone. Now, that's kind of sound like the arsonist to me, wanting credit for calling the fire truck. And so I examined the statement. I laughed at the time and I said, well, here's a man that feels like he's undermined for everything that he has done for the club. But at the same time, you can understand the pressure that he's under to deliver. And he was delivering not for us, so to speak. We welcome the stadium. Everyone should welcome the stadium and all the things, the amenities that goes into it. But our primary focus is not on boxing and concerts and all the things that I mentioned before. It is supposed to be about the football, and Daniel wasn't delivering on the football side. Now, when you look at what he left behind, I said this and I'm going to say it again. When you look at the last window and whatever the board was doing, you're not going to relieve the chairman of your board, your executive of your board, and also the executive chairman of the football club in a month and a half. And when you look from June, when he released Pochettino, when he released Ange, and went through the window with Paratici, not knowing whether he's coming or going, and he's allowed to put this team, this squad together. And at the end of that, the board saw it fit to say, Daniel Levy's tenure as the executive chairman is no longer wanted, and therefore he left the club. Now, if we are to be reasonable, I understand it's very difficult when it comes to Daniel Levy, because we think that he's the bane of our existence, and we want to project that. But he has done some real good things for the club, and we don't want to dismiss that. We can understand that his acumen as far as football is concerned was lacking, and he believed that he could deliver, and that's the thing. And I used this example before. Charles Dolan, who is a owner of the Knicks, believed that he knows so much about basketball that he refused to give up, the handling of basketball. And so the Knicks have been suffering since 1973 to win a championship. But the thing that is important here, for those who don't know about American sports and basketball, I support the Knicks. I'm a big-time Knicks fan. And so what he's counting on is that eventually it is going to happen. I also root for the Rangers, the hockey team. The last time they actually won something was in 1994. That's a long time for the franchise that is in the heart of a city that bleeds sports in New York. And so his take on it is that the franchise, the Cablevision franchise, is bigger than the team, bigger than basketball, bigger than hockey. And therefore his responsibility is not to put his energy and everything that he has, because the Knicks and the hockey is about 5 to 6% of the overall wealth of the conglomerate Cablevision. So he doesn't hold it in high regard. It's a toy for him. And so when you look at Daniel Levy and what he was doing, he believes in the infrastructure. And therefore, as long as the football exists in the background, just the way Dolan thinks, as long as the interest of the Knicks and the Rangers exists in the background, he could continue along to do his business. And he doesn't put that care. That's how he come off to fans like myself. That's how Daniel Levy comes off to me, that as long as he's building and his vision and his dream of existing through infrastructure and beautification of a certain way of doing things, or what he has established, the football is in the background and becomes secondary. I say this and I'll say it again. I hear people talking now about Scott Munn. I've been talking about Scott Munn the very day he walked in, and I look at his profile and I check out some of the stuff that he was doing. He was Daniel Levy .2. Daniel Levy wanted somebody who thinks like him and who has the same mentality about beautification, about infrastructure, and about aesthetics, to add that to the football. It wasn't the other way around, where he was adding football to the aesthetic. He wanted the aesthetic, and then he was adding football to it. He wanted a global product, and that global product was selling what was happening at the football club, not the football. And so Scott Munn was brought in to take off some of the load from that. Scott Munn have no idea what what he was doing as far as football was concerned. And so when you look at it and you look at what Daniel Levy brought in, the people without power that he brought in, like the Lang and the Mackenzie and the Paratici, where goodness of Daniel Levy's heart is much more important than looking out for the well-being of the club. And so what's happening, per the, my topic, my question is that those are the things that bring the turmoil. Those are the things that are happening because of the neglect of getting football people in. And don't forget that apart from the two people that were hired recently, so I'm not going to try to figure out what they're doing and all of that. What I'm looking at the Charringtons. I'm looking at the Lange, and I'm looking at Paratici, who is on his way out after the window. And I fully endorse that. Look, if your interest is elsewhere, help us through the window if they think you have the knowledge and they don't want to leave us high and dry. But the two split director of football was never going to work. So that's okay that he's gone. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have, as a matter of fact, I don't have a problem with recognizing that there's an issue and move to solve it. I don't have a problem at all with that. Some people have hang-ups over it and said, whoa, it's because the club is in turmoil. I don't know what they're doing. Yes, I know what they're doing. When Paratici stepped forward and said, you know what, I don't think I can carry on, with the club the way the organization is. And I said it and I'm saying it again. What they were trying to do, or what you're trying to see, is an appeasement to Thomas Frank, because they think that all these people together in the same boat, all these cooks in the same kitchen, is the same kind of model that Brentford does. So whatever Frank was explaining and the people that he wants around him, everything is being done to appease Frank. I don't think, as a matter of fact, without Daniel Levy's leadership, there's no point, man. Whatever that looks like to some people, to say Daniel Levy's leadership. Remember, this is after 25 years of having the same man, steering the ship. And so now there's a void in there, and we're beginning to see what the lack of leadership looks like. There's practically nobody in charge. I don't think Charrington has the same pull that Daniel Levy has. And so now we're beginning to look at it, and we're saying, what was Joe Louis doing? He was comfortable wherever he was. And we hear about his children. And so now, who are we looking forward to? You want to have one name that you can go to. And when you start talking about Charrington and Vinay together and Lange, you just need one of the executive, and the chairman in that case would be the one to come forth and be the face of the franchise. Daniel Levy has been the face of the franchise for a long time. So what I'm saying is that, are we not being patient enough to rid ourselves of what Daniel Levy had left behind? We're one window removed. Not saying that we shouldn't be getting better from Frank as a manager. He has to find solution. When you take the job, when I started coaching, leaving from a player, I make sure I went and I soak everything up. I do everything I needed to do to make sure that I understand what needs to get done as a coach. Moving from a player to coach, I make sure I sap that up, right? So if Frank is going to come in from a lower club, then he has to take the responsibility on himself to make sure that the people who are around him and people who are within his fraternity, that he get guidance from them. Have a mentor that you can talk to, and you can get that kind of guidance. So you take the job. Now you have to live up to the expectation of taking a job, and it's a high pressure job. It is not whether or not Spurs is a big club. It's whether or not the expectation that is at Spurs is going to far outweigh more than 80% of the clubs in the league. No matter what you want to say about Bournemouth and Brentford, and Fulham, they can go on a bad run and nobody remembers them. Spurs go on a bad run and the world is collapsing. That's a big difference. I don't care that Brentford is doing well. I want them to do well. I want Bournemouth to do well. I want Fulham to do well. I want all those teams in those markets and wherever they are, I want them to elevate, because when they do that, and when you do that, you see the difference in the table. You can see the difference. Before, you have 10, 15, 20 points separating the top six and everybody else. No, it's not like that now. It's getting closer, it's getting better, and you want to see the competitiveness. Some people look at it and say, well, the league is not what it used to be anymore. And you're like, okay, because the top teams are not running away with the by the time you turn January, you know exactly who's going to win the league. And you call that parity? That's not parity. That is dominance by those who have their longer pockets. It's dominance by those who has the bigger purse. And not necessarily that they're better at scouting or anything else. They can go out there and they can buy whatever they want. They can pay for it. They can bully a club like Brighton, or Brighton allow themselves to be bullied when they go out and they sign players and develop them. So the pressure of performance, as far as Frank is concerned, he needs to get a hold of that. He's not at Brentford anymore. So he has to get a hold of that, in my opinion. And so what I find happening in terms of our conversation is that we are sometimes, it sounds that way. Let me finish that thought. It sounds that way to me, and I might be hearing it wrong. Is that YouTube, we're all independent media, believe it or not. And it's a platform that actually allows us to interact. But one thing that we are not newsmakers, and we're not newsbreakers. Most of us have zero source. We're opinionating on things that are established by people with source. And therefore, might not make any sense to some people, is that we can't take our opinion and try to make it Bible for those who are following us. If you understand what I'm saying. And so when we look at it, and someone, I said it in an earlier video, I didn't have time to run it beyond what it is going to look at it and say, well, Frank is struggling. And their solution is, okay, I don't like Frank. That's in the words of another YouTuber. And I think the solution, right, is that Spurs, I'm repeating here, Spurs should not waste any money in this window and go out and try to sign players, because he want Frank gone, right? Well, I don't share that same opinion. I would look at it and say, well, we didn't do well in terms of our buys in the summer, and now I would like them to make those corrections in this January window and see if it is the players that Frank doesn't have or is just no good. Because we can all see what is lacking through injuries and just the quality and the standard that he has to work with. Why would you not want to support the manager so that you can build a team and give him something to work with? I don't understand that. And in the same breath, listening to another video of the same person, when you ask them what's their opinion of the window, and the answer was, this window is totally crap. We're not doing enough in this window to support the manager, the back room, the scout, the director of football. They're all totally crap. And I'm like, hold on a second here. Let me replay that. You said before that you want Frank gone. They should not spend any money in January to support Frank. But then you turn around and said the window is crap because we haven't signed any player. We only signed Conor Gallagher, who is not the answer, because we determined that we need a left winger, right? Maybe it's blatant and for all to see. I share maybe a different view that we can fix what's going on through what we have. If we don't have all this injury, or now it reaches a stage where we have to go out and get somebody, but we signed Gallagher, who Gallagher is going to legitimately put three players or three positions and line them up. Even though we signed a kid, the kid that's coming in, Souza, if he's any good and he's healthy, is another body that we can now, with Udogie being injured all the time, at least we can now switch Spence over to the right side and Porro don't have to play that many minutes. So there are things that the signing does to sort of straighten out the team. Even though we have the injuries, now players who wanted minutes like the Tells and the Odebeer will see what they're made of. And so if we don't support the manager, you're taking it a point that let the club fall because you don't like the manager. I never liked Conte, but I supported him. I wasn't all that in when I realized that Ange was just one-way football and he never paid any attention to the defense. Just tweak it just a little. He will still be here. I say that all the time. But I still supported him. And that's what you should do as a fan. You can't wish the club harm. Like I saw earlier, someone wrote that maybe we need to be relegated for us to realize what's going on. No, we realize what's going on. We finished 17th, for crying out loud. How much more pain can you inflict for us to realize that this is bad? And this is our fan. This is not an Arsenal or a Chelsea or a Liverpool fan saying this. This is a Spurs fan. saying that we should get relegated for us to know what time of the day is. And I'm like, hold on a second. Why would, with everything that's going on, no matter how bad your club is, no one should wish on their club to be relegated to teach anyone a lesson. Relegation is not an option. So the turmoil and what's going on is also bringing chaos. But let me wrap it up here. If we want change, and this has nothing to do with who is going to protest, if we want change and we ask for it, and common sense, maybe not too common these days, we know that Enoch is not going to sell this club anytime soon. But you get one of your wishes and Levy is gone, who was the head of everything that was happening. What he left behind now is what we have to live with, right? And so if Levy's out and you're looking at the confusion, turmoil, if you want a better term, that's happening right now, is that why wouldn't you give the process of getting rid of the stench that Levy left behind with a window or two? I'm not saying that Frank is going to be the manager to lead us out of it, but firing the manager 6 months after you hire him, when you just told me that Levy never signed any good players that you give to a manager that just came in, why would you want to sack the manager? Who is going to come in that is going to take this bad lot and make winners out of them? So we keep firing the manager, and then what happened when he comes in and he does not turn this around? We're going to say we make another mistake, right? You can fire managers when you clearly see that he has the players and he's not getting anything from them, but he doesn't have the players. And I'm not sentimental to Frank. If first and foremost, we have no say in what the board is going to do. We are just going to give our opinion. But what we have happening is that we get so dug in that we expect everyone that comes here every day, every time we go on a page, we must agree in unison that Frank should go. And if not, then you don't know what's going on. We move on, right? We said that we want a stronger midfield. How do you get a stronger midfield? You go out there and you get a player who is a midfielder. Now, Conor Gallagher is no good. We're looking at Conor Gallagher to find everything that is wrong with Conor Gallagher. And you're asking yourself, what? We shouldn't have gotten Conor Gallagher. We should have gone out there and get a ball-playing midfielder. And you said, who is that you're going to find right now that you can come and drop them right in there? That is in England, that is going to make a difference as a ball-playing midfielder. And it's crickets. And so you get Conor Gallagher, who can do more than Sarr, more than Bergvall, more than Archie Gray. So he adds some integrity to the midfield, but we don't want to look at that. Now, for some people who were saying Archie Gray, Sarr, and Bergvall, and all of them were not good enough and should never be the starters, you're now asking question, why did we sign Gallagher? And it's like, woo, what are we doing? I am lost for words when you look at some of the things that people post and people say, and maybe I am getting worked up, but because I see it like every day. What are we doing? And so part of my question was, is it just us? Is it just YouTube? Is it just the internet? Because the thing that jumps out at me and why I ask the question is that they're going to have a march, a protest on Saturday. I'm not promoting it, I'm just talking about it. And so the objective is to run. Before it was Levy Enoch out. So Levy's gone. So now they're taking a stab at Enoch and Enoch out. I don't know what result that is going to bring, but let me say this just by observation. If you're going to have a protest and you're going to the game after and you're waiting for disaster in the stadium, if you're waiting to boo the team, so I don't see the need for the protest because you're already protesting inside of the stadium. The other thing that I will say, and I believe this 100% and more, if you're going to protest and there's 63,000 people in the stand, right? And from all the people that you can gather that would probably make a commitment and say, for all the chatter and for all the people that want Enoch out, say there are 3,000 generous, I'm going to say 3,000 people that are going to show up to come and protest, right? If you cannot peel off from 60,000, 63,000, another couple thousand to swell those numbers, then you need a different approach because the protest is not reaching the people who are going into the stadium. Your protest is reaching all the people online who are dispersed all over the country, everywhere. Don't buy a ticket. And even though we support the club, I can't be at your protest. I would love to go. Even though I'm not chasing the owners away, I would love to go for the experience just to understand and listen to people who are protesting and what they're protesting about. Because we can talk all the smack online. I would love to be there and body, but obviously I'm in the United States, so that's not going to happen. And my protest is not that I'm not going to support Spurs. I'm going to still pay my subscriptions, and I'm still going to get up in the mornings and watch the game. I'm still going to miss appointments. I'm still going to make appointments around watching Spurs. I'm still going to risk watching the game during the week on my phone while I'm at work. That's not going to change. But what I'm saying, and I'm going to close here, if we cannot, or if we're going to make some statement of intent, or statement with purpose that this is how we're going to effect changes, and there are 63,000 people walking into that stadium every single home game, and you can peel off at least 2,000 to swell your numbers, then you got to look at what and who you're marketing to. You have to take a look at your approach, because that is supposed to be where the effect of protest for the length of time that they have been protesting is supposed to become effective. When you look there, right, you should probably see for sacrifice that the South Stand, if you want something effective, you go and the South Stand is empty before kickoff. Maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. Something that is going to shake the foundation of the club. Not walking down the street and yelling Enoch out and wearing scarf and 63,000 people walk by you and then you go in and join them. I don't think that's effective protesting, in my opinion. And I'm just one guy. It means that you're talking and you're preaching to the choir. You're going to sound like just a disgruntled fan, with no real solution, with no effectiveness. You can say you come a long way, all right. Daniel Levy's gone, and what's next? And I do believe that this protest, which I say should never stop, right? I believe that the objective of getting Daniel Levy out is a start. And therefore, because of the way it happened, right, it should be given some time to watch and see how things settle down and see how this new administration is going to work towards the betterment of the club. So I really and truly would question the purpose of the protest now. If you're not going to be able to peel off a couple of people, 1% of the fans that are going in, some demonstration of solidarity from the same fans who you think are disgruntled. Because for me, I would think that if 63,000 people are walking by me to the pre-game to go in and watch the game, they don't give two hoots about what you're preaching. And even though they will probably tell you that they're going to sympathize with what you're doing, they don't want to miss their football. They're not giving up their football for your cause. And you can't get back on YouTube and curse at them, because you have to go and convince them that they need to join in the fight, because it's not just about showing up for the game. It's about making sure that the club is sustainable based on the football and not based on the infrastructure. That is a message that you need to get across. And like I said, I'm going to close here. If you can peel off a couple thousand for each protest, then you're wasting your time, because effectively, I am not going to be there, even though I'd love to be there. The people who owns the season ticket and those who can get ticket, they're not giving up on making that sacrifice. So there's no empty seats there. So to say that you're going to protest without and still have a full stadium, that's a slap in the face. Or it is poor organization, poor objective, or a bad message. And sometimes some of the organizers, which I see every day, sound like just some angry fans. And that in itself too is a turnoff. That in itself, I will tell you this, that's a turnoff for some people, because you feel like you're stoking your own ambition and you want to impress on people your own way, being an arbiter of how they're supposed to support the club. Some people might see nothing wrong with it. Accept that and move on. Don't beat them down and tell them that they're idiots. And you see a lot of that online. There's a reason why there are 63,000 people still walking into the stadium, because you have not reached them. And those are the people you need to reach, not the couple hundreds that are going to show up on Saturday. You might think you're being effective because you can come back and talk about all the people that you meet. But what effect does it have Monday morning, after the game, onwards? What change is it going to bring? Charrington is not going to give up his post. Vinay is not going to give up his post. Lange, who is useless, is going to continue to blow smoke up our asses. So what effect is that going to bring? Show me something tangible without some of the vitriol that comes in some cases. I'm not saying that the organizers are reaching out to that, but I'm saying that the conversation and the hatred for what's going on through the repetition and the regurgitation of the same message becomes that some of the times. And you have to look at that people are turned off by people who want to be the arbiter of how someone enjoy and support the club. Got to look at that. And I'm looking at it from afar. I see it every day. I hear it every day. I post in those same chat rooms every day. And there are thousands of other chat rooms that are going on X and WhatsApp and Facebook. I just do YouTube and Facebook, and I see a whole lot. So the marketing of what you're asking for, the first thing you're gonna have to do is that you have to make people sympathize with your cause. The revolution is never going to happen if you don't have sympathizers of your cause. And in some cases, a lot of cases, you all are not getting sympathizers of your cause. The target is not me, because I hear it every day. The target is the 63,000 people who are going to show up and walk past you every day to go take their seat. And no matter what happened, they boo, they go home, they come back, and they do it all over again. And you ask, where is the success? Well, it's out there. No, it's time. You have to see things that are tangible. There is no evidence that Daniel Levy leaving was a result of your protest. Consider that. It's harsh to say because you put a lot of effort into it, but consider it. Consider the fact, what I'm saying, that you're going to go out there and you are going to do a protest on Saturday, and there are 63,000 people passing you by out there, and you don't know if 5 of them are going to say, you know what, I'm going to stay here with you, and I'm going to miss 15 minutes of the game. I'm going to be there and I'm going to chant with you halftime my displeasure of the board. There has to be something that is not just about booing the players after the performance or booing the manager after the performance. There's something that has to happen that turns in your tide. And if you can't get 63,000 people to start sympathizing with you, how is the millions around the world who does not have that personal physical contact like you do are going to how are you going to feel the effects of what your protest is if you're not doing that? I think I overstayed my time and overdo whatever it is I'm trying to say, repeating and regurgitating the same thing, which I don't like to do. But I hope the point that I'm trying to make is that it is not about getting up and shouting at the board every day or shouting at each other on YouTube. It has to change, and it has to change. And when it changes, you will see it, because then you will get more people who sympathizes with your cause. And you can't continue to call the fans who do not support you idiots. You can't continue to call this generation who see things differently idiots, because you're not going to win them over as sympathizers. They like Matisse Tell. You don't. They like Odebrier. You don't. Give that to them. Give that to them and move on. Don't call them idiots, because this generation is on FIFA. They don't have the vested interest, but you want to make sure that at least your club is having generations after generations become supporters of the club. And if you're in this generation, this type of generation, it's not like when we were. So we have to understand that there are different eras. You have to understand that there's an era that knows nothing about Harry Redknapp. There are people that came in with Pochettino, and they would ask you, who is Redknapp? Who is Martin Joel? You know what I'm saying? Who is Terry Venables? Who is Hoddle? You have to understand that when you start calling this generation idiots. And I've seen it that we're doing a lot of that. We're calling this and talking past them. How are you going to win them over by telling them that they have no idea what's going on? Teach them. Understand that the generation that you're probably talking to, some of them just came over with Ange Postecoglou, and they might not want to stay. You can't compel them to stay. You can't call them all kinds of names because you don't like the fact that they came with Ange, and Ange is gone and they're gone. You have to give them the respect. There are reasons why you can say the reason why I personally became a Tottenham Hotspur fan was because of Ozzy Ardiles and Ricky Villa. So a lot of us are not born in England. A lot of us don't know anything about English life. But we know one thing which is universal is about football, and the football is piped to us all over the world. And we have different reasons. And for some people, we're going to say to people like me, because I'm not from England, I'm from Europe, I don't know anything about football. Those are the insults that I get. Oh, you don't know anything about football. And so the same way you're insulting me in that manner, we are insulting the generation of supporters in a different manner. We're talking past an entire generation because we can't see what they see, because we're so stuck in the 1970s and before. Let's have a conversation. And the conversation is not just about now, is that you want to take them all the way back. Maybe if you listen to what they're saying, you don't have to start telling them everything you want to know about Graham Roberts. Let them go do that for themselves, but stick to what they know now. If they like Tell, let them tell you about Tell. Because you know a little bit more about football, that you can listen to what they're saying and understand where they're coming from. But we want to call them idiots and tell them that they support mediocrity. If they like the beer, they're 25 years old. If they support Bergvall and Saar, because they're 22 years old, because they're teenagers. Don't tell them that they're idiots. Understand where they're coming from. Every era, every generation have its ways. And I'm going to leave it right there. I'm DJ Paul for Tottenham Hotspur.